Hello everybody, Brother Ed coming to you once again from Brooks, Kentucky today. And this is what's really going on in the news that you can use. That is, provided you're willing to use it the way that you need to for your family and yourself. Could come down to just doing whatever you can to save your family and yourself. You may at some point, possibly, add other people into your community. You may not. Just depends on the way things go. You got to figure out before you do something like that who you can trust and who you can't. That's something that takes time and strategy, depending on, well, in any circumstance really. But definitely takes time and strategy. So what's going on? This is very tumultuous times, to say the least. We have two very high-profile trials that are going to be ending within likely the next week, maybe two. Closing arguments already given on one. So we don't know how long the deliberation on the jury is going to take on that one. But I got news. If you haven't figured it out yet, depending on how the jury deliberates, all hell is going to break loose in every major city in this country, including, unfortunately, the one that I currently live in. There's no doubt in my mind, especially after having heard about our police having tanks in the city streets. I think they foresaw something big. Now I think I know what it was. Not only do we have the very real potential for much worse than what is being called unrest, we have the very real potential for a revolutionary war. I'm not talking civil. It'll look like it's civil, but it will be a revolution. Trust and believe. We got all this potential, likely, internal conflict going on within the country. And as if that's not bad enough, and would make it much easier in the event of an invasion by a foreign enemy, like Russia, China, any of their allies, or all of their allies. We got all that going on as well. Tensions are much higher in the Ukraine as well as the South China Sea. Now England is getting involved and bringing their ships into the Black Sea, likely going to also bring them into the South China Sea. It's getting bad, and it's not looking good. I have a feeling, however, I'm not saying I know for sure, it's just a feeling I have. Something tells me that there is going to be a ship involved in all of this, and I am not talking about a seafaring vessel. Maybe even more than one, probably a lot of ships, big ones, hovering over every major city in the world, speaking to people in their own language. And it's probably going to happen when we are on the verge of annihilation. Somehow, some way, these entities will stop it. If nothing else, they might tell us that if we attempt to annihilate ourselves, they'll do it for us before we get the chance. I don't know. I'm not saying for sure that's going to happen, but someone or someone's, something anti-God, I think is going to stop that right on the verge of it happening. And when they or it does, they're likely going to be worshipped by the vast majority of people, and those who don't, well, you're going to have some very serious problems, to say the least. That's my take on it. I could be wrong. We could also, on the flip side of that, see cyber attacks on either the banking system very soon, the power grid, possibly both. Well, we wouldn't have to do both. One or the other is all it would take to cause the same problem. Or we could potentially, the very real potential does exist for an EMP, just as much as it does for those cyber threats. And I hate to say it, but I have a feeling that either the cyber threats are going to become reality, or the EMP is going to. One or the other. Either way, whether it's the banking system or the power grid, one's just as catastrophic as the other and causes all the same problems. It doesn't matter whether you've got electricity or not if you can't access your money in any way. It doesn't matter. And if you can't pay your bill, then regardless of the reason, then you might get it shut off. At any rate, that is what's going on. That is potentially what could likely happen. So all the rest of these issues that people are turning into really big things when they're really something very small, they need to stop. Because when you get down to the truth of it, regardless of what happens, I don't care what anybody says. Personally, I just don't care what anybody has to say about it. There is no such thing as a white race, a black race, brown race, red race, yellow race, or olive green race in the Mediterranean. There's no such thing. There is one race of people in this planet, and that is the human race. We just happen to be a nice, wide variety of beautiful colors. And most of us are actually decent, loving, kind, and compassionate people. At least till they get desperate, then they won't be likely so loving, kind, caring, and compassionate. You gotta prep as best as you can in what little time we might have, and it may not be very long. So, with that all being said, as I always tell you, and it never stops being more important every day, be in the Word. Be as well prepared as you can at all times, because we never know what is going to happen or when, but we know it's going to happen and it's going to be bad. And don't stop praying for divine intervention on whatever level you can get it. It will be the level that is best for you and your family. Till next time, Brother Ed in Brooks, Kentucky, signing out with love.